All right, so today I'm going to be talking about soft quitting versus quiet quitting. I never even heard of soft quitting until this afternoon when an article popped up on my recommended news stories on my phone. And I put it into ChatGPT, and this is what it came out with. Soft quitting is insidious because it operates in the background, eroding morale and productivity over time. As you guys well know, I've worked a lot of crummy jobs. Even before I finished school, I had been working a lot of mindless, pointless, no career, just a job kind of places. And it was terrible for your emotional well being. Your self esteem is in the toilet because most girls aren't going to look at a guy wearing a uniform and a name tag. Let's just be honest and upfront. And the main reason why men want to be financially successful is to get a little piece of cat, right? Because we may have the eggplant down there, but the cat's expensive. You have to impress, you have to show ambition, you have to do certain things, or else you're going to spend your whole life like myself, single and angry. But as I looked over what ChatGPT created here, I didn't like the first three or four iterations of the outline that I was going to use in order to talk about this topic because I truly don't understand why corporations think that workers show up at these minimum wage jobs and are there to do a lot of work. The reality is, and I'm going to use Walmart as my main example here because I saw it as soon as I got there. Anyone that had been there longer than 10 days was completely and totally checked out. And management hated that. They truly despised employees who showed up to work, minimum wage, minimum effort. Any person who believed that and didn't accept the reprogramming to minimum wage, maximum effort. Remember, they want you to show up at every crummy job and work like the owner for entry level wages with 5 to 10 years of experience in any job. It doesn't add up. And so to me, it makes perfect sense when workers show up. And I've been of this mentality. Remember, you pretend to pay me, I pretend to work, and we both accept the fact that that's the only reason you have employees. A lot of workplace theater. And sometimes it's even harder to hide it than you might think. Last week, when they announced that one of our main guys in our group had just blatantly come into the meeting and said, my last day's next Thursday. Tough. What did my boss say? Oh, crap. That was his only reaction to knowing full well that no one sitting in that meeting has gotten any significant raise in over 3 years. And I'm going to say this again. I am making right now what people in my field, in the technology field, were making 20 years ago. I have no possibility of going anywhere in any job that I've ever had. And it starts to wear and tear on you. So let's get into the main talking points here. Quiet quitting is an active, intentional decision to only fulfill job responsibilities without going above and beyond. Isn't that what you interview for? Isn't that what you look for when you're applying to a job? No. Other duties as assigned was added to my job when I got promoted. So that means I kept my first duties, but anything else that they wanted me to do was going to come back on me. Move entire office buildings? I've done it 5 times. Was that part of my job description? Did I actively understand that I was going to have the responsibility of millions upon millions of dollars worth of equipment and technology? No. If they had told me, if they had given me even a grain of how much responsibility I was going to have for a job that only paid this much with responsibilities for this much, it's no wonder that people want to fall back to the responsibilities that they got hired for. But Evil Corp isn't about that life. They want you showing up every day, big phony smile on your face, and pretending it doesn't hurt. So, soft quitting is more subtle and emotional. Employees appear engaged on the surface but have mentally and emotionally checked out, creating a hidden disengagement that's harder to detect and address. These talking points and the article that I created are all written from the perspective of management, of weeding out those employees who don't care. But the reality is, even in my current job, I have so many teachers that look at me and say, Millennial STEAM, do you think I give any F's about this job? I had a teacher who walked right in and said, you know what? She rolled her eyes at me and she's like, oh, I can't believe this. I can't believe this place. And if it were one or two, I'd be kind of like, okay, they're just teachers. They don't get paid crap. They're completely disengaged, but it's the vast majority of them. Once my group found out this year that we weren't getting raises, you know what happened? Everything went to crap. My phone used to ring constantly all day long. My phone hasn't rang in months. As soon as the employees found out that the employer was jipping them out of a raise again, year after year after year of no raises, while inflation runs rampant. We're living like scared animals in a society that's supposed to be first world, in a society where people are finding it impossible to live on a 40-hour work week. It is incredibly possible for you yourself to find yourself living in your car while you're doing your current job because of the high cost of everything. I know I'm thinking about it, and if my coworkers having the exact same thoughts, then it's a thing. All right, so the root causes. Quiet quitting is often a response to burnout or boundaries, employees protecting their time and energy. Well, in one version of the script, it said not only are they protecting their time and energy, but they're protecting their energy so that they can go use it somewhere else. Because let's face it, the 40-hour work week doesn't work anymore for anyone making, I would say, less than $50 an hour. You're not comfortable. In fact, I would say that you're very uncomfortable if you're making $14.70 an hour, which is currently the minimum wage in Arizona. It's impossible. Go look up my video, 100-hour work weeks, because I outline what it really takes in order to, remember, you're not getting a good job that's going to take care of you. Every single job I've ever had in my life is about hurting people financially, emotionally. Every conceivable thing that a job currently does, it hurts instead of helps. So, soft quitting stems from deeper issues like feeling unappreciated, stagnation in career growth, or a lack of connection to the company's mission or culture. I asked Gen Z today how he felt about the corporate culture, and he just looked at me and said, Millennials team, there is no corporate culture here. And I'm like, well, remember, he has autism, so he's very frank and straightforward when he answers any questions. As in career growth, when was the last time you had a job where you could see a clear line towards a better life while doing that job? I'll tell you this much. I've worked my entire adult life. I own nothing. I have no savings. And there is no career growth in any job I've ever taken. In fact, I think that they've removed career growth in nearly 99% of the jobs. And it's just something that we remember, like pensions, like retirement. Today, when I asked Gen Z why he didn't get a better job, because he comes from a family of privilege. And I was like, what are you doing here? You can go and work in your in your extended family's businesses. They will get you a job as a manager of something, right? And he's like, he doesn't want to put forth the effort. That's the one thing that I've seen in Gen Z for the last few years is that the effort they want to put into a job doesn't match the salary that they want from a job. So after a week of realizing that there is no career growth in most of the jobs that are going to hire them, they've tossed in the towel. They start believing that they're just going to be there until someone fires them because they're not workers that want to work. They're workers that just want to collect a paycheck, which again, it happens to people more so with Gen Z because they're already disconnected. Their soft skills, their networking skills, their anything skills, a lot of them show up without basic Microsoft Office skills. And I've seen that over and over again too. They don't know how to do anything because all they do is they're on their phones all the time. And when they're on the computer, they're not using the computer for anything other than looking at TikTok videos. All right, moving on. The impact on workplace dynamics. Quiet quitting is noticeable in reducing extra effort, but quitting quietly erodes team morale, collaboration, and innovation over time. I would think that looking at your paycheck does all of those things as well. That when you look at your $300 paycheck working at McDonald's, you have no morale. You have no interest in working hard at putting the fries in the bag, little bro. And if you extend that to the greater picture, we're all the little bro putting the fries in the bag. Every one of us, every proletariat man and woman is just putting the fries in the bag because you're not going to get anything out of it. You're still going to get fries thrown at you because they think that you deserve it. That's why customers treat people who work in retail, fast food, and warehouse jobs like uh, like they have. I don't want to use that word. Like they didn't find the right job. That's one of the nastiest comments I would get on a daily basis when I worked in retail. Get a better job. Start your own business. Why are you working here? That was a big one for me. Why are you working here? Or the wonderful advice about finding a job that's better than this. You don't need to insult people who are working crap jobs. Don't you think I knew when I applied at Walmart that it was a crap job? But we can't get out of the way because there are more crap jobs in this country that shouldn't exist than any other kind of job in the world. Crap jobs in the service industry that don't pay living wages is what we're expected to accept. I looked for work on Indeed for years. I'm still looking for work. What's out there is jobs that no one wants for wages that no one can afford to work for. We can't afford to work for what we get paid. It's terrible the way that we're expected to live. A disengaged workforce from soft quitting leads to a toxic domino effect where other employees begin to question their own motivation and purpose. The second there were no raises this year, I saw it. I saw it in every single person that I work with. They no longer wanted to work there. Nothing about the job was appealing to them. Because let's face it, corporate America thinks that workers come to work for corporate pizza parties and to have a good time. I'll tell you this much. If you weren't paying your slaves, no one would show up at work. The only reason, the sole reason that most of the proletariat even bothers to show up at work for 1 day per week, an hour, a minute, is the fact that we have to eat. If we didn't have to eat and we didn't need shelter, work would cease to exist. Because the last thing we want to do is spend the most productive hours of our day sitting in front of a computer or having french fries thrown at us while someone screams at us to put the fries in the bag, little bro. Because that's what work is. Regardless of your position in life, if you're not rich, if you're not living comfortable, every one of us is a McDonald's worker having fries thrown at our forehead because we're stupid. That's what work feels like to most people. So when employees show up at work and they see people who don't care anymore, of course it's contagious. You know what they know what you make, and none of us are getting ahead. It's not really work. Work used to mean something. Work at some point, and of course I wasn't alive during this time, but work used to mean something. Work used to mean having a car, having a house, getting into a relationship with a person you want to be with, not settling for that piece of crap relationship that most of us have to settle into because, let's face it, anything's better than shaking hands with the governor 4 or 5 times a day. Today I had to come home from lunch and shake hands with the governor because I was that depressed at work. Sometimes I just sit there and I just feel my brain oozing out of my ears. There's so little engagement in the toxic work environment that we all live in. And it starts with one thing: how little money we're earning, how we can't see ourselves surviving on these so called jobs, and the fact that if you want a raise, you have to leave your job. And you don't know what's going to happen at that new job. You might run into someone you really, really don't like, and that person could be your supervisor. I've run into this problem so many times in the past that I was just like, finding work is I don't, that's an entire video by itself that I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. Okay, so let's get into my finale here. So quiet quitting and soft quitting both highlight systemic problems in the workplace: inadequate leadership, unrealistic expectations, a lack of recognition. Companies companies are not willing to invest in order to stop these problems. Every company I've ever worked for is attrition rather than retention. They don't care about their workers. If they cared about their workers, they would be concerned about how their workers are living. What are your workers eating? Can your workers pay their rent? Are your workers worried about buying gas just to come to work? If those are questions that you think your workers are asking themselves, you've already failed. And somehow the corporation is still making record profits without offering any raises, realizing that every job that's not paying a comfortable wage, if you can't pay all of your rent with 25% of your monthly income, you are in survival mode. And that means you're stressed out at work. Every month you have to figure out how you're going to pay your rent. And there is no clear path out of poverty with the 99% of jobs. I've lived in poverty my entire life and wonder, why does it have to be like this? Why do corporate profits always have to be record profits when the reality of the average worker is misery, pain, and depression? That's what your workforce is dealing with on the inside. How are you supposed to get that person who's feeling those emotions to do anything beyond the basics at your job? And so this really didn't touch on a lot of the original things that I wanted. So I just want to go through this really quickly. So how soft quitting manifests itself: reduced initiative, minimum effort. While the work gets done, it's often at the lowest acceptable standard. Creativity and problem solving are replaced with mindless reactions to anything. Because let's face it, all your job is mindless conveyor belt of doing the same thing over and over and over again all day long and at different stress levels. Increased absenteeism, emotional disconnect. They no longer celebrate wins, large or small, and express little interest in the organization's value. You don't care. Because who cares what the company makes? You will only care about one person. And I've heard a guy at work say this all the time. When I wake up every morning and I have to go to work, I'm only concerned with one thing: me. I don't care about anything else. It's me I'm concerned about. I need money, and I need a lot more of it in order to be comfortable. I shouldn't have to come home and think, oh my God, all I have to eat is ramen again. And it's sad because a lot of Americans live like this. And there's no way out. There's no way of fixing this system. And the philosophical gamer says this all the time, and I'm just gonna uh, exit out of this video with what he says. Everyone should try to get out of work. Every single member of the proletariat, until they're willing to pay us like human beings and not treat us like chimps. Everyone should find a way to stop working.